Imagine your team trades away a 28-year-old Norris Trophy winner, the heart and soul of your defense, because a medical report says his knees are shot. Management tells the fans he has maybe 1 or 2 good years left, so you trade him to a rival for an aging fan favorite. That's what happened on June 29, 1990, when the Montreal Canadiens gave up on Chris Chelios. They thought they were dumping a broken asset. Instead, that broken player didn't play 2 more years. He played 20 more years. He won 2 more Norris trophies. He won 2 more Stanley Cups. And he did it all while captaining 2 of Montreal's biggest original 6 rivals. Today, we're breaking down how a single bad medical diagnosis destroyed Montreal's defense and fueled dynasties in both Chicago and Detroit. Before we map out this first branch, a quick heads up. We are building the most comprehensive archive of hockey history on YouTube. If you love deep dives and hate missing the details that actually matter, hit that subscribe button right now. Join us, and let's build the smartest hockey community on YouTube. Let's rewind to the summer of 1990. Chris Chelios was already a star in Montreal. He had a Stanley Cup ring from 1986 and a Norris Trophy from 1989. He was gritty, mean, and skilled. But the 1989-90 season was a nightmare. He missed significant time with a knee injury, and tensions were high between him and the coaching staff. Montreal GM Serge Savard was under pressure. He wanted to add offensive flair, and more importantly, the team doctors were convinced Chelios was a ticking time bomb. They believed his aggressive style of play had destroyed his body. So, Savard calls up the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago had Denny Savard. He was a local legend, the Spinorama King, and one of the most exciting players of the 80s. But his production was slowing down. It was supposed to be a star-for-star swap. Chicago receives Chris Chelios and a 1991 second-round pick. Montreal receives Denny Savard. Montreal thought they were getting a superstar scorer. Chicago thought they were getting a defensive anchor. Only one of them was right. Let's start with the player Montreal gave up on. Remember that 2 years left prognosis? In his first season with Chicago, Chelios plays 77 games and puts up 64 points. In 1992, he leads the Blackhawks to the Stanley Cup final. In 1993, he wins his 2nd Norris Trophy. In 1996, he wins his 3rd Norris Trophy. He becomes the face of the franchise, playing 9 seasons in Chicago, dominating the league long after Montreal thought he'd be retired. But by March 1999, the Blackhawks are rebuilding. Chelios is 37 years old. Surely now he's done, right? Wrong. On trade deadline day, March 23, 1999, Chicago does the unthinkable. They trade their captain to their fiercest rival, the Detroit Red Wings. Detroit receives Chris Chelios. Chicago receives Anders Eriksson, a 1999 first-round pick, and a 2001 first-round pick. Chelios arrives in Detroit at age 37. He plays 10 more seasons. He anchors the defense for the 2002 Stanley Cup champion Red Wings, and in 2008, at age 46, he wins another Stanley Cup. He finally leaves Detroit in 2009 and retires in 2010 at age 48. So here is what the broken asset produced post-trade. Over 1,200 more games, 2 Stanley Cups, 2 Norris trophies, 9 All-Star selections, and a Hall of Fame induction. With a 1991 second from the original trade, Chicago selects Mike Pemichter, 39th overall. He never cracks the NHL lineup, but on January 29, 1996, he is traded to Toronto for cash. This branch fizzles. Now let's see what Montreal, and later Chicago, got in return for this legend. Montreal traded Chelios for Denny Savard. Savard plays 3 seasons in Montreal. To his credit, he helps them win the 1993 Stanley Cup, putting up 50 points in the regular season. But he's injured for most of the playoff run. By the summer of 1993, he leaves as a free agent to Tampa Bay, and would return to Chicago in 1995. The result? 3 seasons, 1 cup run as a depth piece, and 0 long-term assets. When Chicago traded Chelios to Detroit in 1999, they got a haul of picks and prospects. Let's track them. First, the 1999 first-round pick. Chicago selects Steve McCarthy, 23rd overall. McCarthy plays 134 games, 16 points for Chicago over 5 seasons. On August 22, 2005, he is traded to Vancouver for a 2007 third-round pick. With that pick, Chicago selects goalie Josh Unis, 86th overall. He never plays an NHL game. Dead end. Next, the 2001 first-round pick. Chicago selects Adam Monroe, a goaltender who plays just 17 games for the Blackhawks. He leaves for the AHL and Europe. Nothing valuable in return yet. But the last asset in the Chelios trade is where it pays off for Chicago. Quick reality check. You are 5 minutes deep into a trade tree video about a deal from 1990. You are clearly the 1% of hockey fans who actually cares about this history. Do yourself a favor and subscribe so YouTube stops showing you generic highlights and starts showing you more of this. Anders Eriksson. He plays 97 games, 41 points over parts of 3 seasons in Chicago. Solid, but not a star. On November 6, 2000, he is traded to Florida for Jaroslav Spacek. Spacek plays 155 games, 60 points for Chicago before being traded with a 2003 second to Columbus for Lyle Udline. He plays 77 games, 13 points over 2 seasons with Chicago. On March 10, 2003, he is traded to Dallas for Sami Helenius and a 2004 7th-round pick. Helenius plays 10 games before returning to Sweden, but with that, 2004 7th, Chicago strikes gold. They select Troy Brouwer, 214th overall. Brouwer plays 238 games, 103 points over 5 seasons with Chicago. Brouwer becomes a physical force and a key part of the roster that breaks the 49-year curse in 2010. So yes, Chicago literally got a Stanley Cup out of the Chris Chelios trade. But the hockey gods have a sense of humor. In 2011, Chicago flips Brouwer to Washington for a first-round pick. With it, they select Philip Deneau, 26th overall. Deneau develops in Chicago's system, but in 2016, the Blackhawks need rentals for a playoff run. So, they trade Deneau back to Montreal along with a second-round pick. Montreal uses that pick to select Alexander Romanov. Think about that. 26 years after trading Chelios, the trade tree finally grew a branch back in Montreal. They eventually got a premier defensive center in Deneau and a top 4 defenseman in Romanov. It took 3 decades, but the debt was finally paid. So let's look at the final tally. Chicago turned Chelios into 2 Norris trophies, a Stanley Cup with Brouwer, and years of dominance. Montreal got 3 seasons of Denis Savard, and eventually, decades later, recovered with Deneau and Romanov. But the verdict remains the same. Montreal traded a Ferrari because it had a flat tire, and watched it win races for 20 more years. Drop your team name and their worst trade in the comments. I'm pulling future trade trees straight from your suggestions. If you think trading a superstar is ever worth it, smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss a deep dive. And if you think this was a bad trade for Montreal, wait until you see how the Patrick Waugh trade literally cursed the franchise for decades. That video is up next. Thanks for watching. And this is Puck Pulse.